Hi there, I'm Missy Information. On August 1st, I was challenged by Alice Lee of the Bat Month podcast to watch the film Twilight, 4 minutes every day during the entirety of the month. I decided to do it, because who am I to say no to someone on the internet? And thus began Twaugust. Greetings, fellow Twoggies who made it to the end of the first week of Twaugust, and welcome newcomers who have started listening thanks to this recap of the first week. I'm Missy Information, and I am very excited to bring you along with me on this journey that has began from a simple tweet by Alice Lee asking if I had seen Twilight. The answer was no, and thus all of this began. It's been a really interesting journey into the first 28 minutes of this film. You can listen to all the daily episodes where I listen 4 minutes at a time if you want, or you can listen to this recap and get a sense of what I've been watching, seeing, thoughts that have been in my head as I tell it to my dear friend, Des Moines actor and playwright, Adam Bielgard. Now, this episode takes place outside of the daily episodes. I'm not going to be referring that much to things that I said or questioned during the daily episodes themselves. It really is just a recap of the first 28 minutes as told in a oral history sort of way to my friend Adam. So you can listen to this episode without having listened to the first 7, but I do encourage you to go back and listen to them because there are some very interesting revelations, and especially day 7, which is when we have, as you'll hear in this episode, the turn, where I physically and viscerally reacted to what was happening on screen in a way that has changed how I'm going to be watching the last hour and a half of this film over the rest of the month. So take a listen to that, and take a listen now to our interview with Adam Bielgard. Of course, this is all home recording. We're not professionals, so there are going to be some slight audio things. I noticed that I have a stupid squeaky chair, apparently, that was going throughout it. My apologies on that, but thankfully the content within overpowers any audio mess. So tune in and enjoy this recap of week 1 of my journey with Twaugust. I am here with my special guest, Des Moines playwright and actor Adam Bielgard. Insert applaudience noise for Adam. Huzzah! Ooh, yeah!
Thank you. Applaudience, is that a portmanteau?
Applaudience, there it is. It's a very, as Paul F. Tompkins would say, a clumsy portmanteau, but it works pretty well. I mean, Twaugust in of itself obviously is even clumsier to try and get off the tongue, so I'm surprised that I've been able to just adapt to saying it so trippingly.
Yeah.
As it were.
What's weird, though, is I don't understand the relationship between Twinks and August, but I'm here. So.
You know me. I can't just get those Twinks out of my head. So welcome to the show. I'm really glad that you're here because talking to you earlier today, you and I have a similar level of knowledge of the Twilight Saga in series in that we were both around when it happened, but neither one of us have seen the films, read the books, or paid that much attention apart from just the memes that came through.
Absolutely.
Yeah, what do you remember at the time that got through? Like, what leaked through to you of Twilight?
I had a negative interest in the franchise, the books, the movie. Like, I went out of my way not to look at stuff. In talking with you, I realized you said something about a bombshell, which I am curious because either I am not in any way, shape, or form aware of how this series ends, or I've buried that.
For me, my bombshell revelation that I've had is how this begins, because I've known how the franchise ends, because similar to, as you said, I would think I'd have a negative interest in it as well. It just was not my thing. I'm not a vampire, horror, monster, supernatural kind of person as is. I knew this was a romance.
And neither is this movie.
Yes, exactly. That is the part that I am learning, which I knew that it was mostly romance. Like, I wasn't so much under shell that I thought this movie wasn't what it was, but I didn't quite realize how much of like all of the beats and setups really are just like a typical coming of age high school drama.
Yep.
Where it is a love interest. It's like we got some Romeo and Juliet sort of beat setups, just without, you know, the warring parents of society, you know, versus the vampires, I'm assuming, because we haven't gotten to the vampire society yet. In the first 30 minutes of this movie, we have established our two leads. We have met Team Edward in the flesh, and we've met Team Bella. And
but she's not a team.
That's true. Well, we've also met Team Jacob, whose hair is about as long as mine, but we haven't really built world building into the vampire part. It's set in like our world. That's the thing I was trying to figure out when I was first watching it, was like this an alternate reality where it's like, oh, like for instance, there was a Southwest Airlines thing. So it's like, okay, we're in our reality. It's not like, oh, they were flying on Northeast Airline. They were trying to play that off as its own brand kind of thing.
Yeah.
So so it is interesting knowing that this has a big following, and feeling as though at the moment it is, how can I just have a typical teen drama, and what's the little twist flavor of the moment? And vampires, supernatural stuff is always coming in and out of vogue, and that's where it was landing. What was your understanding of the appeal at the time? And also, let's dive a little bit more into that negative interest that you had for it, and what was fueling that.
To start there and work backwards, it seemed way too, I don't know how you get below the common denominator, but it was, I mean, that's what it was. It was, I know my audience, and I'm going to give them exactly what they want, because that's what drives them crazy. And that's what she did. Stephanie Myers, the hot Mormon chick, as Jack Black puts it, she knows what she's doing. I mean, it's trite, it's predictable, it's lowest common denominator. And whenever I see throngs of screaming tweens, I turn step and go the other way.
True. I forget because you are about 10 years older than I am. So there is that generation gap of Gen X versus millennial.
Now everybody knows.
Well, I just,
I'm an elder millennial.
Oh, that's true. You are an elder millennial. You're not quite Gen X. But there's that time gap in the sense of you were that much further removed from when it came out. Because 2008, that was my freshman year of college. So I also was aged out of, right? So that reaction would have made the statement, even if I hadn't, of the gap there. And so I was aged out of it, as well as enjoyed Harry Potter, not like a Potterhead to where I would be embarrassed about my level of interest in it, but it was one of those things where it's like, okay, if I'm going to read or get interested in a world of these two, that's just the one I'm going to lean on. And I know they're not one-for-one comparisons. Don't come at me in the comments. It was just at the time, you know what I mean? At the time, it was sort of the broad divide, in a sense of you felt like those were two different camps that kind of went in there.
Yeah, and I mean it was, but at the same time, you had far more peers interested in the Twilight Saga. I can't think of anybody, and I mean I'm talking about like female friends included. So there's another generational gap. My age group is kind of the middling, because there's speaking of memes, there was a meme of a bunch of, at the time, again, this was the 2008 to 2011 or whenever the span of the movies was released, 40-something-year-old women going nuts at a premiere for this movie. And the caption was, if this was a bunch of middle-aged men screaming for actors playing teenage girls, the FBI would be involved.
I did check to make sure I keep saying Robert Patterson, Bobby Patz as Alice Lee, the Bat Month podcast host who challenged me on this journey to begin with, calls him, as well as
Bobby
Kristen
Patz.
Stewart. Both were of age
when
this movie came out. So there was that, at least, where they weren't trying to push.
He's like as old as you. Isn't he?
He's a little older than I am. I try not to look up too much information, but I wanted to know 32. Just for the context of, like, how old were they? He's 36, actually.
36.
Yes, 86.
Wow.
So
So
he's
he
even
was
older
20.
than my brother.
He was 22 when he made the film, so that's not so far removed from high school.
And Kristen Stewart was 18 when it came out. Now, I don't know when it was filmed. So, again, it's one of those things where it's still on that line of... so far, she's not, like, overtly sexualized. In fact, this movie is not very sexual. It heavily tries to be sensual and, spoiler alert, fails in a way, in my opinion, which is hilarious. But it is not something where... I just wanted to know, like, okay, if we're going to comment on that, the fact that, what is sensuality versus sexuality and how this displays it, I just was like, well, I want to make sure that's couth and we're not, like, veering into this weird area where, again, Hollywood does that all the time where they cast people who are underage and then just put them out there in, again, sensual or sexual context, and you're just sort of, like, expected to take it and not think about the fact that these are people behind there because it is just so casual.
Do we need to take a second
sexualized and stuff.
For your listeners, do we need to take a second and go over the difference between pedophilia and ephebophilia?
I don't really know the difference myself between the two of them, and I probably don't want to... Getting the word groomer thrown at me a bunch these days, I mean, not obviously specifically, the broadness of it being thrown out there is just probably like one or two steps too far removed for me to go into. But again, that was something too where I thought about where it's like, well, these are high schoolers that were
the characters
being talked about as well, which again, the tweens and everything, if that's in your era, I'm sure that I had like just stray thoughts about like, oh, Hogwarts, what would it like to be a student? And you get to snog them all the time, like they talk about in the books. But like as you said, 40-year-old women going crazy over this in a phenomenon where it was something where, it's this, oh my God, it's Edward. And that was part of the thesis of this podcast, which was why Robert Patterson, why Bobby Pats. When listening to the Bat Month podcast, which was the same conceit I'm sort of doing here with Twaugust, chunks of the Batman film done, and I just made this very comment that I didn't really get Robert Pattinson's appeal. That led to me, that led to the revelation that I had not seen Twilight, which led to this. So that is also part of why I'm watching this, is to understand it. And so far, I don't understand it because he's just like gawky and awkward and hasn't grown in to his face like a 22-year-old person hasn't. Like I'm trying to think of myself back then. In my very severely closeted, but still knew I was interested in guys on some sort of, aesthetic level, we'll just say. Would I have been attracted to him or not? And I was not unattracted to Daniel Radcliffe, so that's maybe more of the frame of reference of there. But I never remember being like, woof, rub, wah, wah, with...
I picture you as more of a Malfoy kind of guy.
Yeah, you know what? You're probably right on that. That's probably, yeah. Well, between the two of those, yes. If we're going nowadays, though, mean, Neville Longbottom, whoa,
that was a glow up.
We're cutting that out. Not cutting that out. We're going to go ahead and actually get going with the recap, because I think the more we talk about the beats here and the more that's going to be coming out, as well as I just need to get this coming out of my head now, because I'm just starting to just see images from the film, and it's for something that I had, again, like you, I would say a negative interest in, to suddenly be thrust into the deep of it is fascinating. Twilight, Twaugust, recap from the top. We open the film, Lionsgate Summit Entertainment logo, wham bam. Then we cut to a deer. How every good movie starts with just a shot of a wild animal, and the deer is then stalked and chased by what I assume is a vampire, because it was a person. It wasn't, just like something obfuscated. Jumps on the deer, kills it. That has not come back in for the last 28 minutes, by the way.
So it's not Chekhov's deer.
It's not Chekhov's deer yet. It's Chekhov's.
So it's Schrodinger's Chekhov's deer.
It's Schrodinger's Chekhov's deer, very much so. So that was sort of the first moment. So it tricks you because you think, oh, some action. This is spooky, scary, huh? Things jumping out of there. Then we cut to, it is Bella and her mom and sister, and Bella is packing up her things, moving, flying on that aforementioned Southwest Airline flight to Forks, Washington. So they went from the desert to the rainy mountains, both of which are much more interesting landscapes than what we have here in Iowa.
Yes.
So between the two things of her sort of like feeling like, oh, where do I want to live between this? It's like, hey, you're going with a good deal on either way. Now she's moving from her mom to be with her dad. I do not remember or did not necessarily pick up if there was a specific reason. She said that her mom was going around later in the film. She said her mom was going around with, I think, her brother. It was her brother or stepdad or someone, because they were involved in baseball. And so that was why she was going to be staying there. Now, I don't know if that's a lie or not. That is just what she said. Because here's something that, again, spoiler alert, there's a lot of lying happening to begin with for this relationship. She's now there living with her dad in this town where they are familiar with her. Because, in fact, when Team Jacob shows up, they have a conversation. And without remembering all the details, it was clear that they knew each other and that both of their fathers knew each other. Her dad is the sheriff of this town, which I'm sure will not come into play at all later on in the film. This is now when we get to the new school drama aspect, of which is the main beat so far. It could very much be a sort of one-for-one like Mean Girls opening where it's, oh, where are you from? I'm homeschooled, except where are you from? I'm from Arizona. Ooh. And she gets mixed in with the new crowd that are like the quirky individualist personality people, and then we're seeing sort of cast off on the other side instead of like the bullies or the popular kids. Can you guess what other group of individuals might be paired up that were shown as a contrast?
The hot goths.
Ooh, you are right on half of that, because the word hot may not necessarily be applicable to these people.
Okay.
Not in a negative way of that they are, grosses or anything. It is just I have made the comment earlier in an episode that the makeup budget must be lots of invoices for the palest shade of Ben Nye makeup that they have available, because it is doing heavy lifting on these folks. It's wild.
Did they rob a morgue?
Honestly, they could have. And here's think of that morgue part. Keep that in the back of your head. We're not going to visit a morgue, but there's going to be a weird way it's going to kind of connect back. So there's a lot of setup for who
it will come
sort
full
of the
circle.
ancillary characters on. It will come a bit full circle. It will maybe come a bit more like
we will beat it to death and then bring it back from the dead.
Yes, there it is.
Oh, like the Earth's orbit. Gotcha.
Bam. So now, a little bit muddly because I know it's high school stuff. Again, I commented me before, being homeschooled, I just can't relate to that part of the aspect.
Oh, but you went to Central Campus for a bit.
Yeah, I took some classes when I was in high school, but like I didn't. Okay, there were cafeteria scenes. I didn't go sit in a cafeteria. So there wasn't that weird where it's like,
the
lines get drawn.
But the thing is, you saw the cliques. You just didn't get sorted by the hat.
I saw the cliques, but because that was classes where people were coming from all sorts of different types of schools, there weren't the like cliques of people seeing each other every day. I saw more cliques in like my church or my youth group. That's where it was. So I knew of what it was, but I just never really, again, there weren't kind of the one-for-ones because I wasn't seeing these people every day. I was seeing my family every day, but my brother and sister never kicked a chair out from underneath me, unlike one of the kids in this, So then she goes to her chemistry class. And in a beat that could be taken from an SNL sketch, she walks into the room. Behind her, there's a fan, and it's blowing. So when she turns and sees Edward from across the room with his moody, disinterested stare, he sees her and her hair is literally blowing and flowing behind her like a parody beat from a romantic meet cute.
That they wrote that in there, that it wasn't just him seeing stars. Her hair was actually flowing like she was the model of an 80s rock video.
It was that exact beat. And it almost makes me wonder, did the director know what he was doing? And I
who was the
director?
director?
Someone on there must have. I haven't looked it up.
Okay.
I'm going to give myself a chance to look up some facts. That's going to be one of the ones that I will do here.
Okay. I'm curious. I don't know if it's a known name, like if they've done other stuff, or if they just went on to do Human Centipede.
Oh my, so I have to show my sexism here. I said he. It is a she. Catherine Hardwicke. Someone who I'm not familiar with by name.
No, the name doesn't hit me.
Their directorial works include the teen drama 13.
Oh, okay.
The movie Lords of Dogtown, which I have heard of.
That was good. Wait. That wasn't a movie. It was a documentary.
It's a biographical drama film, which I'm guessing must have been based off the documentary.
Oh, that could have been. It's about the skateboarders, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Nativity Story, the one starring the gal from The Whale Rider, Twilight.
Okay.
And then after that, Red Riding Hood, the dark remake one with, I believe, Amanda Seyfried. And then from there, just not only a couple.
Well, I mean, where do you go after Twilight? You peaked.
That's true, but they had sequels and they didn't bring her back for it.
She only did the first one.
She only did the first one. She didn't do the whole series. She only did Twilight. She won a Young Hollywood Award for it, but it's her only film of the series.
Wild.
Yeah.
The plot thickens.
This is now introducing a concept that I have become fascinated in this film, which is eye contact, lack thereof, and faces. There is face work that's going on in here, which can be described as mini kabuki theater, because it is the most expressive while also somehow being underplayed. Like, there was a moment where Bella bit the bottom of her lip, but she wasn't just biting the bottom of her lip. It was like, I am biting the bottom of my lip, somehow in a way where it was so noticeable that I just got lost in, someone had to make a decision that this moment is what I want on film, to display her attraction for this pale, pasty kid. Like, it is fascinating. It is visually fascinating in that regard. They then have the most awkward time where it is 30 seconds of her looking at him looking away, then him looking at her looking away, and then that sort of back and forth while the teacher is just getting them set up, and then them shuffling on the experiment who should go, to a time where he actually says the phrase "ladies first," which I don't know where we're at in terms of feminism and the rotation of if that is okay or not okay, but it did just stick out to me of a way where the way he did it seemed very passive aggressive and sexist somehow. Now, how much of this so far sounds like what you would expect from what you know of Twilight? We're reaching about the halfway point of this first half hour. This is the first 15 minutes of the film.
Oh, Jesus Christ. That was it? 15 minutes?
That's 15 minutes, because we're going to be at a turning point, so I just want to set up and make sure we're okay with where we're at.
That feels a little better. I thought we had made it farther into the film, and I was going to say, this is moving slowly. But if this is only 15 minutes, then we're good. The almost breaking fourth wall to put a fan on her, that winking at the camera like, oh, look what we did, that seems out of place to me.
It was a very out of place moment.
Because, you mentioned the lip biting. if a woman bites her lip, it means she's interested. But if you're drawn to the fact that she is like really making a verb out of biting her lip, you're just like, okay, it's not a subconscious thing that she's doing, like when a cat's pupils dilate. She is biting her lip, and it's like that seems out of place too. But the fan more so. I'm surprised by that.
It's there's not a lot of comedy in this. This isn't one of those things where it fit because, oh, we're playing in the tongue in cheek.
Is there any comedy?
I mean, there's the light comedy.
I get peaks and valleys,
social awkwardness,
because it can't just be okay. Because it can't be teenage angst wall to wall. But at the same time, like, I'm trying to picture levity in this film, and
there's levity up until this point.
Coming up empty.
It's not the heaviest of like. I mean, everything in this is very tepid. That's the weird thing about it. The sensuality is very, like, there's a sort of trepidation about it. And again, thankfully, because they're high school students, so that's not something where I want to see these like high schoolers going at it. But it
ain't nothing wrong with a little bump and grind.
But it was just weird of how, like, overtly innocuous in a way where I would think this was maybe like Disney so far because of the non-tension tension that's in it, but it's not. So it just is a very again, trying to understand this in the context of the appeal that one of the main actors has. It hasn't delivered so far. Now, maybe it will. And
well, maybe part of that is, Stephanie Myers is Mormon. Maybe that's like the why everything is so muted.
That could be. I'm sort of taking this as a film in of itself and not trying to apply too much outside context to it. So I'm sort of letting the film tell me what is about
including the books it was based on.
Yeah, but I don't know that much books. So, but here's the thing: but what I'm saying is that while she wrote the books and everything, that doesn't necessarily mean that when it's being adapted and translated onto screen that they're going to follow the same rules. But it is an interesting, but it is an interesting point when we are talking about the context of the source material from it's pulling from. I'm just saying I have not thought about that aspect of it yet.
But I mean, at the same time, you're not. I mean, you are and you aren't honor bound by certain things. If you're going to adapt a book, there are certain things that you have to keep. But the other thing too is, even if you use creative licensing to go and pull the tether, and let's just say, I don't know, whatever the limits on what you can and can't change are. Let's just say it's 18%. How you would quantify that? Not my department, but if you're pushing 18% difference between the book and the movie, why make it about the book at all? You're going to lose the fandom. You're going to all the people are going to say is, I know people are like, "Oh, this is nothing like the book," but that's usually hyperbole. It's nothing like how it was in my head is what they mean.
So we cut to another action scene that tricks us into thinking that there's going to be more action than what there is, where a security guard at an industrial facility, which is like a logging facility or something like that, is jumped and attacked by what, again, we can assume are 3 vampires. That has still not yet been revealed within this first half hour. But we have our first human kill. Now things are getting interesting.
Oh, dear.
Now, by the time this next 15 minutes are done, what do you expect the body count to be?
I'm going to say 2, the deer and the
You
logger.
are absolutely correct. Those are the only 2 things that have happened so far in that regard. Because remember, this is still a high school drama.
Right.
We are now back at the classroom. We are back at the school. Another chemistry assignment. Again, there's one of the subplots is a chemistry class that they're having together. It's the classic beat of how do we get our couple to get in there. They have a moment where Bella asks Edward where he's been, and Edward was like, I left for a bit. And she's like, okay, why did your eye color change? To which I then said, his eye color changed?
What?
Apparently, at some point, his eyes went from darker brown to a lighter amber brown, which I'm wondering had something to do with the security guard that just got jumped, question mark?
So they're implying he did it and that drinking blood makes his eyes change color?
I don't know if the movie's implying it. That is what I have inferred from it, with no other context whatsoever. Now,
okay,
some things happen pretty rapidly here within the last 2 episodes, so it would be the last 8 minutes of what we've had. I'm going to very quickly wrap it up because this happens boom, boom, boom.
Okay.
So get yourself strapped in like the driver of the van that starts careening toward Bella in their school parking lot. It slides apropos of nothing. It appears this vehicle just lost control, and it's going right toward her. Now, who should go in and save her? Take a guess.
Jacob.
You are so close. Edward comes in, and he comes in at super speed. And you think, oh, does he get her out of the way? Does he push her? What does he do? He sticks out his hand, stops the van in its track, dents it, doesn't have a scratch, looks at her in the eye, and is like, you okay? And she's like, yeah, because you just saved me by putting your hand out and stopping a van. They get her to the hospital, and this is where we have a couple turns that are leaving me with the questions where we're at now going through the rest of the film here. The first of which is the doctor that is examining Bella is clearly a vampire.
How do they establish that? How is it clear?
It's clear from midnight white makeup number 1.
Okay.
And amber contact lens / digital enhancement number 2.
Okay, so
those are the
pale.
It is the paleness and the eye color are the only that's just visual. There's not a sort of like, there's nothing else that has given me that. But I can just look at these and tell it's Edward, it's the other students, and it's this doctor.
It's been established at this point that if you're pasty and you have those amber eyes, you're a vampire.
Yes, that has been established.
Okay.
And the doctor's examining Bella. She then, she's like, it's just scratches. Like, that's the thing, that she really isn't her. And that's kind of what they were talking about. She then leaves the hospital room, or doctor's room. I'm not sure if they're at a hospital, but she leaves that room. The doctor, Edward, and I believe a female who's also one of the students are talking. And they say something along the regards of, you're going to blow our cover kind of thing. I don't remember the exact words. And so Bella sees this, and the other two leave. Edward comes over. Bella and her are talking. And he says, this is the last episode, and my brain is so full and already just like all the information about Twilight that I've leaked out is stuff that I had no clue of so far. So I'm now struggling to retain the specifics of what was said. But it was essentially, she asked, how did you stop that? And he said, what do you mean? You got out of the way. And she said, you came from across the parking lot and stopped that car. He's basically like, no, I didn't. She said, yeah, you did.
Gaslighting her.
And he said, you are confused. He literally tells her, you are confused. The man tells the woman she did not experience the things that she definitely experienced. As you said the words, I don't think I'm using it incorrectly. That is classic gaslighting.
Absolutely.
That is how this relationship, this admired cinematic relationship starts. I was not okay with it. If you get a chance, because I just released and recorded that episode before we started talking here, so you wouldn't have had a chance to listen to it yet. You need to listen to my reaction, because the turn, it's like the turn in The Prestige, where you're all of a sudden like, oh, this is what we're doing? This is what's happening?
Except I like The Prestige.
He gaslights her. They then meet up again the next day. She's been asked out by now a second one of her peers to like the homecoming dance.
Huh.
And for what I think is the second or third time in this movie, from across the parking lot, Bella and Edward are staring at each other. While they are then staring, the teacher's like, all right, we're got to go do our study field trip thing. And that's where we're at, where we are in a greenhouse with compost water, a glass full of water that he took from a compost that he just poured out. And then we had to have the joke in the back. Again, the lighthearted, there's some jokes where the teacher's like, don't drink it. That's a joke. And Edward is still actively gaslighting her and getting upset at her for insisting. And I believe also said at some point, let's just agree to forget about this and move on. He wants her to move on from the fact that he stopped a vehicle with his bare hand.
Right.
That's where we're beginning. That's this first almost half hour. That's the beginning of Team Edward and Team Jacob relationship. I now probably understand a little bit better the fact that there is a Team Jacob. And I know it's because it's literally built in the plot and she has to decide. Like, I know that's not something that people were like conjuring up.
Right.
But so far, I'm Team not Edward, at least.
Well, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
And I don't have a further understanding of why Robert Patterson either.
And I would just like to say, since you brought that up, I'm going to do one better to Saddest Alice 69, and I'm going to call him Bopa.
Bopa? Oh, beautiful.
For sure.
Oh, beautiful Bopa.
Just make it even shorter.
Okay, so Bopa.
Bopa.
I'm not sure why Bopa yet, but we will see if Bopa later.
We will. And maybe you might change your mind. Maybe Bopa redeems himself. Maybe Jacob is worse.
I mean, if we're playing lesser of two evils, poor Bella. But so far, she's enamored. Oh, the other thing I didn't mention, there was a moment where, just after the moment where he gaslit her, is her in her bedroom, and she's like, I was going to say the word roaching around in her sleep, but I realized we've come to learn this is one of those familial terms where we say it as a family, but I don't think it's a real word. Roaching around instead of retching around, I believe.
Okay.
But she's tossing about in her sleep, and all of a sudden, Edward is there in the room, and she wakes up and sees him. And she's like, "Oh my God!" And then he's not there. So I wasn't sure if he was actually there and like teleported really quickly out, but thankfully Bella tells us in a narration that was the first night that I dreamt of Edward.
But okay, yeah, it does tell you the first night, but
which tells me this is going to happen again.
Did she actually see him fall back asleep, wake up again later, and be like, "Oh, that must have been a dream," because her mind can't comprehend how he could disappear so quickly? Because, I mean,
that's what I'm curious to find out.
Maybe it was a fever dream. Maybe it was actually him, but what is that called? Crap, I can't think of the term now.
Paralysis
It's
demon?
where, say what?
Paralysis demon?
Oh, no. It's not sleep paralysis I'm thinking of. It's where our mind writes things off because we're like, oh, it could not have been that.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, but
it's where you gaslight yourself, basically.
Yeah, I was literally about to say self-gaslighting. I know what you're talking about, but I can't think of the actual term.
Because you say, "Oh no, I'm crazy. There's no way it could have been that because XYZ." But at the same time, it's like, well, he did stop a van barehanded, so maybe he could have, blinked out of my room when I saw him, staring at me in my sleep.
Well, and he came across the parking lot at breakneck speed, so we know that he has quick abilities. You are asking the questions that I am asking myself with this coming through here.
Well,
let's
figure it out. 4 minutes at a time.
You couldn't have pitched that better myself. I'm excited to be going through these next few weeks and going 4 minutes at a time, because there's going to be so many revelations in here, and I am ready for some more Bopa. Just because I want to figure it out. I can figure out the appeal of Kristen Stewart. Mm-hmm. But I already liked Kristen Stewart going into this. I believe the only film of Bopas that I've seen was the Harry Potter film he was in, Goblet of Fire. I don't think I've seen him in anything else. Or if he was in anything else, it was not a big enough thing to have an impact that I have clearly remembered it.
Didn't you see The Batman?
No, I haven't. I've been waiting to see the
you
Batman.
haven't?
No, I just listened to the podcast to kind of absorb it at first because I thought, oh, it'd be better if I learn about the film this way than reading the Wikipedia page. And now I am going to watch it, but I'm going to be contrasting that with the Batman 1996 Adam West film and doing that for a different project. What? Yes.
Wait, you said 96 Adam West
1966, sorry.
66. Oh.
96 would be, yeah. That'd be a really interesting Batman film. They were like, just before Batman Forever, they were like, maybe we should reboot this with Adam West and see how it goes. And they're like, no. This doesn't work. Get us Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer and Tommy Lee Jones together again at last.
Adam, thank you so much for coming on to Twaugust and for being my sounding board.
It's my pleasure.
It felt so good just to dump all of what I have been sitting with this week into a vessel to just take it for what it is. And that's just where I'm at right now. I am taking this film for what it is, and I am thankfully enjoying the experience, even if I'm not enjoying the film as a film. I am enjoying this slow burn revelation, as well as just asking myself, how did this become a successful major motion picture? I am still...
How did this get made?
Different show. It's not that type of show. It might turn into that type of show, but it's not that type of show.
All. We're not asking how. We're asking why. And we're not asking, did this get made? We're asking, Bopa.
Bopa unto you.
Why Bopa? You know what this is reminding me of?
What?
This is almost, and I know we're only 28 minutes in, but this is like a 1-to-1 of Love's Labor's Lost. Except without the king and his 4 friends. And it has vampires.
Oh, God. I'm going to have to dig out my Shakespeare encyclopedia again to remind myself of everything that goes through it. And I had just given myself the easy analogy of Romeo and Juliet earlier. Oh, it all comes back to Shakespeare.
2 households, both alike in dignity in Fair Forks, Washington.
On that note, or that line, again, Adam, thank you so much for joining me. This has been a pleasure.
Happy to be here.